Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good, good. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone was able to rest up over the weekend, get ready for the week ahead and all that fun stuff. Hopefully the weather by you was nice. It was fantastic over by us here. As always, before we jump on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Just a quick note for you all before we jump in today. Please keep in mind that the YouTube broadcast does have between a 5 and 30 second delay, depending on where you're logging in from, which can definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about. So keep that in mind when you're watching on the YouTube side. Also, just wanted to take a second to give a shout out to our latest members that joined over the weekend and last night and all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for the support. I'm pumped to have you on the SSFTG fam. If you aren't a member yet, you have a few different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. Here on YouTube, you can check out the join button below the stream. YouTube fan gains access to the extended hours trading room, which continues from the morning session from 10 to until things start slowing down. At the latest until about 11. Every member gains permanent access to the Discord chat server, and of course, you get the awesome badge next to your name here on YouTube to show your support, and it just looks awesome. To understand the trading approach and what we're doing here every day, you can take a look at the Day Trading Academy over on SSFTG. Listen, this isn't a small little lightweight PDF guide that you're going to finish in an afternoon. This is a 19-plus hour course full with study material, homework, reviews, study, just all kinds of stuff. So you best tuck in if you're going to be trying to learn that end of things. And then finally, we've got the VIPs. And VIPs have exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed stream covering the entire morning session from 9 until we end the day to ensure that the fastest connection possible is what you're logged into, and you don't have to worry about jumping streams. Alongside that, VIPs also have access to our monthly VIP webinars. There's actually one coming up this weekend, so for you VIPs, that's definitely exciting. It's going to be about scalping. Really pumped about that. Private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, all kinds of cool stuff. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're a seasoned VIP veteran over on the Zoom stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside me today and analyzing these crazy markets. Let's take a look at some charts, take a look at some news, see what's going on for today as we approach these markets. Don't forget to grab the morning DP levels. Those are posted for you this morning on the major markets that we take a look at. So those are there for you. First things first, let's take a look at the news. Make sure that we've got everything under control on that side of things. From the news perspective, there isn't much. The only thing from the news perspective actually is, well, nothing. We don't have anything. It's small and medium announcements. That's it. Give me 1 second. My cat is being an absolute brat right now. Alright, I'm back. I am not about to deal with another cable getting chewed through by that little monster. Man alive. Salty and sweet, I tell you. Anyway, Sour Patch Kids. As far as the news calendar is concerned, we don't have anything going on today. The NAHB Housing Market Index at 10 o'clock. 10:05 has some FOMC members speaking with Clarita. At 10:05, 10:25 is member Bostic, and then Clarita again at 10:25, I guess. I don't know. A few bill auctions. There's nothing else going on, though. So, no news to really worry about from that side of things. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ first and see what's going on here. One of the very obvious things that's starting off is we've got this very obvious descending wedge that is kind of broken through. We're doing something that it hasn't done before. Beforehand, the market was dropping, retracing, and dropping again, and retracing and dropping again. But then it totally reversed off of the lows and shattered basically every seller. And we can see they just started scrambling pretty quick to get out. And that led to the next rally to the upside. And this rally is very important because this rally is breaking a previous major swing. Now, I know it doesn't look like they did it very well, but the fact that they broke it is good enough. That's really, really big information, especially given that this whole bottom end has been nothing but divergence. Guess what we're nearing into? The longs are starting to get that Mac-whack territory where they can start getting this thing to rotate back up again. Not quite there yet. Would be nice to see it go maybe a little bit lower. And if we're looking at this from a cyclical standpoint, we have an L4 bounce off of the lows, led into an L1, barely, and then screaming all the way back up. So far, we can see, very obviously, the buyers are attempting to defend the L1s unsuccessfully so far, likely going to dip a little bit further down, and that L2 is going to be the big zone of interest. See if they can get it all to line up. And just so I don't lose track of it, I'm going to leave that on there. There we go. Looking good, looking good. Over on the S&P, gigantic rally to the upside here as well. Just major, major reversal. The one big thing with the S&P when we compare it to something like the NASDAQ, we don't really have that decisive middle swing that we're breaking above. I mean, yeah, we're breaking above all of them, I guess, but there's not really one really obvious one that's in the middle there. So it really did kind of need to grind through all of them just as sort of that proof. Like, yeah, okay, there's none left behind. It's taken care of them all. The job's done. So here as well in the S&P, we have a very nice reversal off of the bottom. My concern is that we reversed with like no pullback. That's not normal, especially not for the S&P. The S&P doesn't very typically reverse on an L2. It's not an L2 reversal kind of market. It's usually an L3 minimum, and more often than not, L4 and 5. So the fact that we're reversing off of the lows on an L2, and the fact that we're seeing these divergent tops, yes, this is really good for the bulls, and everything is still climbing higher structurally, but kind of behind the scenes, there's definitely a concern that this might need to pull back just a bit further, and further in the sense of getting down to those L4s, 4,082, something like that, would be a really nice trap on the previous retest on that low. Great spot. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to be able to actually get down there. That'll be the hot spot, though, at L4. This could also just be one massive bull flag for another rally higher. I mean, we've got to give it to the bulls. The S&P is definitely the stronger of the markets. So the short-term bulls definitely have something to consider. Don't get me wrong. It's just the concern is that the deeper pullback is around the corner. On gold, very strong continuation to the upside. And again, the one problem area that we ran into is at 45. It hit it like a brick wall. Just stopped it dead in its tracks. They finally made it above that. That's very, very good for the bulls. Now, it doesn't mean that it has to break out and pull back right exactly to that point. In fact, if anything, if we were to narrow this area in, it would likely tell us that our POC is somewhere a little bit further down towards the 36s or so. Let's see where this all stacks up. 35s. Those are a pretty solid guess, huh? So if it is going to pull back, yes, it can pull back to these 45s, and it might bounce here and it just goes screaming higher. But I would much rather see it get a little bit closer to those 35s, maybe fill the gap. Something in a bit of a better zone of interest. On crude oil, I mean, man, what a mess this thing is. It's just a giant range, obviously, but if we look in the nearer term, by the strictest of standards, we do have lower highs and lower lows. I guess, right? I mean, it's nasty looking, but it's there. So if the market is going to try to reverse higher, it's got to break some of these previous structural highs, and unfortunately, those are right at the top. It didn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room up there. So it's not that the buyers can't get the job done, and this kind of candle is definitely a great start to do it. This might be a data problem, though, because I just did roll over to the 721. Either way, if someone could confirm really quick for me, is that the 15-minute chart on crude oil for real, or is that because I need to reload my data? Either way, buyers are at least trying to get it to rally back up. We'll see what they're able to do, but it's kind of stuck in the middle. Man, that thing is ripping, huh? Over on the euro, we have it's a very obvious resistance top at 21,830. It's a really, really tough spot. And the last time the market ran up to the highs, 1.21760, 65.48, 65.48. Yep. Okay. It's just surprising to see a candle this large. Usually that means there's a data problem. It's not always, but anyway. As far as the overall movement for the euro is concerned, I mean, we can see the overall trend is very obviously up from the bottom. It has been for a little while, but in the bigger, nearer term, not such the larger picture, but in the nearer term, again, strictest of senses, yes, we are making higher highs, higher lows, but we kind of need that extra proof to make it back up here. These narrower ones are having some difficulty. One big thing that is fairly obvious, when the market does pull back, it does it fairly aggressively, but when it reverses out of there, it doesn't leave a whole lot of time to come back. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, we do have a very nice wedge bottom, just like we had over here. Great, really strong breakout move, going a little bit sideways. Realistically, it would make sense to see a continuation move up. Keep in mind, this last leg up that happened over here was FOM? No, it was non-farm payrolls. So that does have something to do with it, but you'll notice even after that, it still made its way back up. So in terms of repetition, definitely poised for an upswing here on the euro. Bitcoin sliding to the downside, hitting lows sub 43,000, 42,000, depending on the exchange that you're looking at, and bouncing off of this area. Huge undertow across the lows. A lot of it on news that Tesla dumped a lot of their Bitcoin or all of it or whatever it was. I mean, regardless, it doesn't change the overall impact of Bitcoin. One company ditching it. I mean, it sucks. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't, but it's a good wake-up call for the cryptocurrency side of people, because it's very cult-like lately, it seems, to not follow one person too closely. Huh? Didn't we just have to have a Twitter account for Trump? Maybe we have to throw one up there for Elon now if we're going to watch crypto a little more. Either way, Bitcoin is seeing a little bit of a concern here, and I do like the overall bottoming pattern going on. And this rally off the lows is fantastic. Very obvious that sellers will have likely gotten slammed a bit on that one. But the problem is this hasn't gone up far enough to really convict any of these previous highs, break above any structure. There's nothing that's really saying that the buyer should take this right this second, which leads me to believe that we might have one more good leg lower. And as we'll see in a second, when we look over on the trading view side of things, there's a lot of downside objectives that make sense, Ethereum included. We're seeing a lot of nice lows setting up here, but it just needs a little bit more. How much time do we have here? 15? Oh, we got tons of time. So from the trading view perspective, if we start off on the top of the list and look at Bitcoin, there we go. Let's jump back to a 4-hour chart and go way, way out there. 4-hour... Oh, I'm on a... open my eyes. And zoom out just a little bit further here, and we can kind of see where we're at. This is a major zone of interest, right? Buyers obviously bought that pullback, screamed it higher. Bought the pullback, stuttered a little bit, but after two legs made it up to a new high. Two-legged correction back down. This is the chance for sellers to try to take it back over or buyers to reverse it. The buyers failed their reversal, and now it's chunking lower. That doesn't mean that this bull trend is over and it's doomsday and everything is falling apart and crypto's garbage. Those might be the headlines as the market's pulling back, but remember what we've been talking about. This is healthy. It's needed to pull back. We've been looking for like a 32 to 40% pullback for weeks, months, and it just hasn't happened yet. So this is definitely healthy. If we're looking at this overall movement from the top to the bottom, and we also include that higher low, we can see that they have a very bottom-weighted POC down in those low 32,000s. If we go back a little bit before that, the POC is a little bit further up in the 34 to 35s. This paints a very obvious picture where the market's going to want to try to come back to, and that's going to be between 34 to 30, we'll just say 30 on the low end, 31, right? That's the hot spot. So we can see, I mean, this isn't a guarantee. There's nothing that's saying this market absolutely has to do this. But in terms of value buying and when it actually gets to a zone of interest, that's the spot, right? If we're looking at it from a pullback context, guess where we're at? That puts us right at 47, 48%. It's perfect. Now, if we're looking back at some of these previous legs from top to bottom, the buyers bought low. And we can see they very aggressively defended, and they might still be defending under here. This could very easily be an accumulation phase under this. It would make a lot of sense. But, man, how nice would it be to see a quick little whoop? Oh, man, you better believe pending limit orders are hanging out there and just waiting. But for right now, we're in a zone of support, and buyers are going to try to creep it back up. If they start getting back above 47, 48,000, especially if they start getting back into the 51s, 52s, we might not make that low down there. But at the moment, that's what I would like to see. Now, Ethereum is in a very similar situation. It's needed, man alive, is this thing needed a pullback. If we're looking at it from top to bottom so far, the pullback move from the highs to the lows has only been 29%. That's not even close to what we've been looking for. It makes a lot more sense to see that deeper pullback closer to the 41s, 42s. Remember those previous pullbacks were as deep as 48. Well, look where 48 puts us. Right back into this previous congestion zone. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, but I would almost guarantee that there's going to be a POC somewhere right around in the middle there. Oh, what do you know? Lands up perfectly with 48%. Who would have thought? And don't you love it when that happens? So again, there's nothing saying that the market has to do this. It doesn't have to. But if it wants to really hit the buy wall and send this thing to the moon, through the moon to Mars, and maybe find the Galactic Federation across the stars, that's the pullback that we need right there. We'll see if they're able to get it. 3,000 is going to be a big brick wall, just like it was on Bitcoin. Remember before we were talking about Bitcoin? Where did they break out when they went above 4,000, or when they broke the 3,000 mark? They ran up to 4,500. Where did they pull back to? A little under 3,000, like by $1 or so. And then went screaming all the way back up. That was the beginning of the rally to 20,000. Just saying. Please give me a pullback, Ethereum. Textbook what? Yeah. I mean, it's textbook. It really is. If it wants to finish it off. Man, that could be absolutely incredible. Anyway, before I start getting too hopeful, let's look at the NASDAQ on the daily and kind of see what's going on here. We do have, again, what we were talking about last week. We have the overshoot by about 50%. It missed, I mean, it went like 48%. Very close, maybe close enough. We haven't seen yet, but we are demonstrating bearishness exactly where we need to see that bearishness show up if it is going to get that measured leg down into major support. The POC is going to take a century and a half to load up, but this from the daily, that's why we use the lines, that POZ zone is right where, POC zone is right where those earlier sellers tried shorting and getting absolutely dunked. It's also the completion of the three-legged press with A to B equaling not C to D, but E to F, right? That first equaling the third. Everything lines up right there. In the POC, if it gets there we go, is at 12,820. You want to see a spot of support? Now, again, does it mean that the market has to go down there? No, this might be the bottom, and it might not come back. If they start holding inside support on that measured leg, that's probably the case. So those 13,150s, 200s might have to be a bit careful around there. Got a ways to go until that happens. From the 60-minute perspective, we can see that we are still inside that L2 on the bigger frame. But, man, what a change in how things have been going. We went sideways, very aggressive breakdown. Sellers tried getting it going, took a little bit of heat, rolled back over, big aggressive breakdown, nice aggressive breakdown. Now we're starting to break those previous structures, and we're seeing sellers coming in at those highs. They may have broken above those highs, but if the sellers are coming in here, that doesn't help the buyers. That's more likely to see something like inside resistance and then drives all the way back down towards maybe those 13,100s again. Or 75s in this case, a little bit lower. We are definitely on a teeter-totter right now. This could be a springboard in either direction. On the 15-minute to see if it gauges a little bit more emphasis from the top of the move to where we are so far, at least. Got the POC at 13,363. So it's kind of stuck back in the middle. We'll see what they're able to do from there. Yikes. Now, looking at the... I thought my chart was bugged, I gotta say. The Asian session to Euro session, it's not very frequent that we see the Asian session larger than the Euro session. That's what we're going into today. I don't know the last time that we saw something like that. Let me turn off all the trades so they don't make it ridiculous to see. Nope. That looks like a data problem. Nope. Nope. I'm pretty sure there was one. Yeah, here we go. So on April 30, we had a Asian and Euro session that were very similar in size. They did have a slight downslope, and the day did end negative. These have a downslope as well. So, okay. Let's go back to the 30th. Oh, I don't have any more days of data. So, well, that doesn't help the emphasis to the up, or the, well, it doesn't help the bulls at all. Looking from the Asian session, since we do have a very obvious bear trend. L3. Finally broke a new low into an L1. Almost reached out for the L2. Missed it. Broke down. Couldn't quite get the L1. Couldn't get the L1. Finally got back to the L1, which is where we're seeing resistance now at 324, 325. Euro session was boring. Yeah, I bet. It looks like it was real dull. See where they want to go. We've got about 6 minutes, 5.5 minutes until the open, right around the corner. Seems like sellers are running into a bit of trouble here, but they're still resting directly on top of their L1. Average sellers 13,322. They might have already gotten their objective, though. Well, definitely hit the 2-to-1s. Very nice bear bar back to the downside. See if sellers can get it to pop back up in towards those 22s. We still have 4-ish minutes until the open. It makes it a little bit awkward. Not really a whole lot happening, huh? Pretty calm and quiet. If the S&P can make its way up towards 59 quarter, 59 quarter is the zone of interest on that previous leg. That's where sellers eventually finally came back in. If you look at the progression and the overall move, started off where sellers just took profit. The POC was bottom weighted. It popped the market back up. They were able to create a bit more sideways action, but not enough to shift the POC. They finally shift the POC, but it's just in time for the market to close above it and continue back to the highs. We go up to the next high. POC still the same. We go to the next lower high, and the POC is very obviously top weighted now, and sellers have migrated their way back down. So if we go across that entire move from the top to the bottom, they've actually shifted their POC in the middle, or the initial response at that 59 quarter. Now that we've broken underneath it, I want to see the sellers respond off of that area as a rejection. What do you think about Elon? Do you believe he already sold his Bitcoins? What would his agenda to undermine assets that he owns? To buy more cheaper? Sell out the ones... I mean, it would make sense realistically where if he still has, or a belief in, or the company, rather, has a belief in the cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, it would make a lot of sense for them to sell it while it was at the highs, when it's at all-time highs, near 60,000, like we've been talking about for months. Bitcoin loves bouncing off those 20s, 40s, 60s, yeah. It would make a lot of sense for them to sell it and talk bad about it for a little while to drive the price down to buy more. It's the exact same thing that JP Morgan did. And I mean, another side thing, because I know he's more on the altruistic side of things, it might be to prove a point of how fragile the cryptocurrency market is, or its susceptibility to news, whereas everybody thought it really wasn't. Guess what? You thought it was decentralized, when in reality, Elon makes a comment and it moves just like the US markets did when Trump made a comment. Oh, wait a minute. There are some similarities. It might just be to prove a point. I don't know. What I care about is the chart, and the chart's saying that it should go deeper. I want it cheaper. I don't care if Elon owns it or not. Yeah, he told him Tesla's value too high. Yeah. That's just how he rolls. The way that Elon talks is almost like he has to pause to make sure that he doesn't like disrupt the time-space continuum. You ever notice that? Like, you ask him a question, he's got to like, how do I word this so the humans don't catch on, you know? The chimps are on to me. Oh no. S&P hasn't made it up to the 59 quarters yet. If the sellers are going to break it back down again, which it does look like they might try to, especially if the NASDAQ helps kind of tug it lower, then, I mean, the NASDAQ's in a great spot for 22. 930 hits doesn't even cause enough volatility to pop through the high. Wow. Come on, ES. 59 quarter. Oh, no. All right. Oh, man. S&P missed it by a tick and the NASDAQ left the station. I even held through the open just in hopes that it would be enough volatility to get it, but even that... All right, well, I missed the S&P by a tick. NASDAQ continuing down off of the L1 and reconfirming the trend to the downside, so we're still moving. S&P is not pulling down. Could be a clue that it's either a really great time to buy the NASDAQ or it's a really great time to sell the S&P. See if you can get a snap back up into the 1175s and a rejection. That would be a very strong clue that sellers are trying to get continuation to the downside. Or sit on hands, yeah. There's always that third clue. Whew. Big slam to the downside. S&P went all the way back up just to go all the way back down again. It's like salt in the wound. Thanks, ES. Good reminder after the weekend. S&P is back down, and from this perspective, from the early morning at least in this rally higher, we've got the POC that's hovering at around 57. So technically, we've been having a difficult time even closing above those 57s and trying to push lower. Sellers still have sentiment. Oh, lordy. We got some bear bars showing up here. A lot of selling aggression going on. S&P setting up possibilities for shorts at around the 55 quarters. If sellers want to try to take that back down. Although now it's already gone through 54. I might have missed that one. Jeez. These rejections on the low of the NASDAQ are making me a bit nervous. I know it's a 500 tick, but there's some really strong bull bars down here that could be suggestive of larger pullbacks. Nice big pop higher. Watching this first test of the L1 as an aggressive zone for sellers to attempt to shove back is a last-ditch effort for them to try to get in. Beautiful quick snap back down again. And another snap back down. Back-to-back scalp opportunities off that. Jeez, only a chance to get one, though. Golly. Lordy, lordy. All right, big snap rejection off of that area. See if they can pop back up towards that zone. Keep in mind, this is an aggressive rally higher, so this time around I don't want to be the first one to the party. I want to see if they stall and break through, because if that happens, bulls are likely trying to climb up to that L2. Look at the wick on the 15-minute chart. It still has 10 minutes, but if a wick like that sticks, try saying that sentence 5 times fast, that could be a massive problem. Immediate resistance initially closing the 500 tick underneath L1. Uh-oh. Oh, where do they close it? Ooh. Oh, no, they closed above it. Sellers need to get this to go back down now. Oh. Ooh, that's not going to help the sellers at all. Ruh-roh. Going up to the top of L1 next. Sellers who tried selling the first L1, total failure. Well, not a total failure. It actually offered up some really nice opportunities. Back to the top of the next L1 is also the re-entry point of that bear bar to the downside where sellers took that whole move lower. Ooh. Which way we going? All right, first 5-minute candle is done and over. 5-minute POC on the S&P is 55.75. Oh, jeez, what a candle. Wow. Oh, they weren't shy about that one at all. 13,300, huh? That's the 5-minute POC. Just left a big old wall behind. Look what happened at L1. If they weren't sure, right? If they weren't sure and they were given this information, guess who got out at break even again? You want to know why these levels are so ridiculously powerful? It's stuff like that. Back to the top of that L1. Oh my god, I hit the ass twice. Okay, I was going to say. Back up to the top of this L1 zone. Beautiful pop back in. Now, aggressive washout move back up through the highs. I'll utilize that to increase risk a little bit as L2 is the next spot that it's run up to. Oh my god, it rejected off that fast. Okay. I did not get filled on L2. Jeez. Well, that's going to make my job a little bit more difficult now because I didn't get that fill. But downside objectives back down towards those L1 top of the range area. All right, I'm going to jump ship there on that move back. And accept it in that target zone. And that's why I said it made my job a lot more difficult. I really needed to get that fill to help my average back up to the upside to allow that scalp to work better in my favor, but it just didn't. I just hit it and it was gone. I'll accept a small, I think that was a small loss between all four, right around that zone. If sellers are able to get proof, then we should break back below the volume node on the first 5. Otherwise, it's not worth the risk. Yeah, it's just one of those things, you know. It's not what I wanted, but the market doesn't care what I want. Man, if it did, it's totally different, right? The hindsight account wouldn't have to be in the trillions. It'd be the real account in the trillions. Market doesn't care what you want. I didn't get a fill, but I still have to do my job, right? And this is why. See this rejection back up? Could you imagine not taking profit where I was supposed to because I was upset that I didn't get filled? Now how bad of a situation would you be in, right? This is why you follow your plan. Big bearish attempt back off of the top of L2. Yeah, big V bottom on that rip, huh? Crazy. I mean, the sellers tried it again. They couldn't get it done. I mean, maybe they do it again. Who knows? You know, maybe they take it off of the top of L2. I don't know. That's a heck of a top on that candle. I mean, look at this twin reversal. If you were to add these candles together, that's vicious. So if they're going to do it on any candle, that's the perfect one to pick. We're still stuck inside the L2 on the 60-minute. It attempted to deviate underneath it, but couldn't quite get the job done. Notably, the moving average clusters on the NASDAQ 60-minute, the slowest of them, at least, is still pointed very heavily down, not even turning. That's not a good indication. More likely we go sideways at the very least. I still don't think we're done messing around with these lows, but what a whippy way to get the job done, huh? I like the first volume node at 55.75, but honestly, I think a lot of sellers probably tried closer to the 55 area. So I'm going to go ahead of them at 55.25 to see if I can get above that. I like that zone primarily for a couple different reasons. That's where it kind of went that whole kind of bear engulfing mentality, attempting to break this down really aggressively on the S&P at the open. And it failed miserably. So a lot of those shorts will have gotten stuck down there, and that would also be a retest of where the buyers came in on that initial rally. So it makes a lot of sense where if it is going to pull back, that would be the zone. Now, if it does it on this candle, I'm going to cancel my order. I don't want to buy this kind of candle way the heck down here. That'd be a monster of an engulfing candle. Well, actually, an overextension might not be half bad. Overextension down in the 55 quarters. I definitely think it increases the risk factor of it. Bulls dipping back and retesting the earlier L1. Remember those earlier sellers who tried and were given a chance to get out of break even? If they didn't take it, they were just given another shot. Looks like they took it. All wicks under that. $9.45 around the corner. We don't have any news or anything. The next, micro news announcement, 10 o'clock. A heavy bear bar would potentially spark some sellers here on the NASDAQ in the short term. They've got a heck of a lot of work in front of them, though. Again, that bear combo on the top, that big bull bar up, followed by that snap response back down, is what's allowing them that strength. But look at what's happening. All break evens down here in the 10s. Oh my God, Zig. You were driving me up the frickin' wall today, cat. Sellers are trying to hold it. These are a lot of bull failures going on here, and those tops, that's not good for the buyers. Sellers might try to take this lower if this begins triggering. The major problem, 13,300 volume node, all of that stuff is in the way of the sellers. Look at how the 15-minute candle closed. Really? I am not buying that on the S&P. Nope. That's a hard pass. Oh, man. The bulls are really trying to creep this thing to the upside here. This is just a fist fight. This is where things get a little bit dangerous. If you're trying to wait for, like, for someone like me, I like waiting for traps and things to trigger. Sometimes when you're trying to trap areas like this, the trapper becomes the trapped. So be very careful in these zones. It can flip the script on you very quickly. Weak bear bar. Buyers immediately snapped into it, testing the Euro session lows. Give me a little pushback down in the 20s, I'd be a bit more interested. Still super early to the party, and given the fact that we haven't broken above the highs, I would still prefer to lean on the short side. There's a heck of a lot of failures going on, and the bulls should be able to take it, but I'm going to err on the side of caution and allow one more new high for proof. And if they can't, then It's a pretty obvious problem. Ooh, okay, now they have the highs. They've broken above the highs, and we have a little bit more proof of that continuation. It's perfect. Oh, really? You plot that candle at the highs, though? That's not so perfect. Oh, man. Let's see what the response is back in these 1550s. That new top that just formed doesn't give me the warm fuzzies, though. Yikes. If the S&P is going to find that bounce support, again, around that 55 quarter area, it's a great spot. Bulls attempting to push back up again. This is where sellers originally took it down the first time off that new high on the NASDAQ. Oh, man. That is a nasty bear bar back down. Tap the VWAP on the new high. Great place for sellers. Yeah, you can feel it too. So the buyers are, I mean, they're trying, but every time they try, they just get slapped. Now, this little dip underneath that bull bar, if this starts churning back up, especially through Euro session lows, that would be a great spot for, especially on the scalp side, to get that move back up. In validation of the earlier sellers. Ooh, man. What a bear bar. Can they break above it? Nope. They couldn't break above the bear bar. Now they've got a double bottom. Which way you going, NASDAQ? Okay. All right. Wow, look at that bull bar. Sheesh. All right, if the bulls are going to follow it through, that's the kind of bull bar that they're going to want to trigger in. So far, they have not been able to trigger it in. If the buyers are going to take it, that's the bull bar they got to trigger in. Ooh, they couldn't do it. Inside bear bar, really strong too. Okay. Ooh, well, okay. That candle went away pretty quick. That's the bull bar that they have to trigger in the sense that if they're going to take the buyers to the upside, this gigantic bull engulfing candle is the one that they've got to breach above. A lot of buyers wait for those bull bars to go one tick above to trigger them in with buy stops, stop limits, etc. That's where they actually take place, but it couldn't do it. So the fact that it didn't break above that high doesn't necessarily mean that it can't you know, that it can't bounce back up or anything, but it's going to make it a little bit harder. The sellers have taken over. The bulls who were going to be the fuel to the fire to the upside weren't there. They weren't triggered in. So NASDAQ is sliding pretty aggressively here. Let's see if we back this up and look at the overall move higher. If it gives us any extra info, and it really doesn't. That was the break point. Jeez. These some wicks, like crazy big wicks on the bottom. Zone of interest would be around the 75s or so, which should seem, you should remember that area. That's a nightmare zone. Seems like every time we get close to those 75s, ugh. If we measure from the top to the bottom as far as what's going on so far, there's just that giant wall at 324. That's it. L2 is continuing to hold so far on the bigger picture. Whew. All right, popping back up a little bit here. Short-term resistance zone, sellers trying to dominate the 95.75s and continue to push down. Ooh, POC just shifted to the downside. At the moment, the market is still technically under it. I'd like to see if they get a pop back up into the 95s more than the 90s. '90s are a zone of interest, but it's on the bigger perspective. I'd rather see 95s, 96s. Not quite. Beautiful pop higher. And the scalp back to the downside, right back into the POC. Nice. Ooh, are sellers going to be able to break? Oh, that popped right back up pretty quick. Oh, they closed above 294. That's a problem. They got to get back under that. What a mess. All right, still seeing a lot of wicks on the lows. Sellers obviously tried getting it going, but just couldn't finish the job. $10 right around the corner. That's when we move into the extended session. So on this side of things, feel free to get those questions in as we move into the 10 o'clock period. Strong little bear bar here. Can they get it? Oh, jeez. Wow, right at the end, that just went all the way up to a bull bar, huh? All right. Ooh, man, bull bar right back up again. This is not helping sellers at all. Look at this barbed wire inside here. So far, there's not really a reason to do a whole lot of anything. The bigger picture, the NASDAQ has that dip back to L2. So, I mean, we know swings are in. But, man, has it been messy down there. When the bulls finally did try to take it, it was just a huge failure at the top. Ooh. Big old heavy bear bar here might be pretty nice for sellers to spark the move. It's another rejection off of the 5-minute POC volume node. It's inside a lot of congestion. Ugh. Oh man, what happened to the bear bar? Well, the seller's got the bear bar, but nowhere near as good. So I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of a backfill on it. I didn't get filled. I tried to get a backfill, but I didn't get filled. The irony. Okay. Well, it seems about as good of a time as any to go into 10 o'clock then. All right, so we'll give a couple more minutes here as we go into 10 o'clock to get those last questions wrapped up. And, man, frustrating. And then we'll move into the extended session and see if we can get some scalps off of this volatility still. And give me 1 second. All right, we're back. A little more salt in the wound there. That's fine. Cool. All right, not seeing any other questions coming in, so no issues there. So we will end up on that YouTube side of things and move over the transitional phase over to the extended hours. For you VIPs, you just got to sit tight. Nothing you really have to do there. And for you YouTube members, all you got to do is go over to the communities tab, and the link was posted there, I believe, on Friday. So you might have to go back a little bit, but you'll see that link inside there. For the rest of you, I hope you had a great day of trading, and we will see you all on tomorrow morning, all right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.